Joining us on the panel today is Diane Latiker. Diane Latiker is founder and president of Kids Off the Block. She founded the organization in her Roseland home in 2003 as a safe space for her daughter and her friends to gather. Its mission is social change, offering alternatives to gang violence, drugs, school truancy, and the juvenile justice system. And Kids Off the Block provides services to more than 300 youth annually in Roseland and surrounding communities through after-school programs. Diane Latiker. Josephine Robinson spends countless hours organizing at the grassroots to connect young people and adults with development opportunities. She holds a Master of Arts degree from the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration and has spent her career working in organizations whose mission is youth and community development, including Southwest Youth Services Collaborative and Chicago Commons Mary McDowell Settlement House. Currently, she is a specialist in college, career, and community partnerships at Gage Park High School. David Cherry is host of the event. And also joining us on the stage today is Fred Seton, who is filling in for Tio Hardiman from Ceasefire, a program which many of you may be familiar with, is really engaged in addressing violence before it happens by stopping and mitigating conflict on the street level. Very brave people, very brave work. And it wasn't until recognized recently on an international level as a model for things that can be going on around the planet that people start to really see the legitimacy of the work that Ceasefire has been doing. And now, since we're starting to address violence in the streets as a public health issue and not a crime issue, Ceasefire has a lot to do with that. So, one of the things about when we talk about after-school programs, in particular when we're addressing violence amongst young people, is trying to define who it is that we are developing programs and services for. How do we determine those who need the services? How do we mitigate in our minds the necessity to build programs that help all young people, along with this idea in our heads that there are good kids and bad kids? So I guess my first question is there such a thing as good kids and bad kids? And how does that play a role in terms of the programming that you develop?
Actually, I just don't like that. I really don't. We as adults are the nurturers, the caregivers, the providers. We're everything, actually, to our kids and our young people. And I'm sorry I used the word kids, but that's what I was brought up on. So no harm meant, though. But we're brought up to do that. And I can't see any of our young people saying, I don't want to hang with you because you're this and I'm that. Well, if we teach them that, well, actually, some of us think that. Let's just tell it like it is. We do. And everything our young people learn is passed down. So it's not like they create it. So I don't like that term. I think our young people are young people, our children are our children. Simple as that.
I don't either. My background is social work, and we used to study things called the deserving poor and the undeserving poor. And we treat young people that way. I heard Father Flager, he said he wants the media to stop saying gang affiliated. So is it okay to kill young people if they happen to have an affiliation with a gang versus other young people? I think we've got to change the mindset and change the words that we say. And all young people have endless possibilities. It's our job to work with them to figure out what those possibilities are. Because I think sometimes we limit and we see young people in a box, so we keep them in that box. But if we can open up our understandings and what their potential can be, it could be better. But I think we've got to make sure that all young people have great opportunity, and it's our job to work along with them to figure it out.
At Ceasefire, that's something we do. We don't give up on nobody. Good family, bad family, no ones we give up on. So to put them in a box, the good kids, bad kids, some kids come from great families, they just get out in the street and give in to the social pressure, and people look at them as bad kids, but we give up on no one.
And you know, and when I think about the young people that we have seen through our programs, we have some young people who are, you know, who are used to being defined as the good kids, you know, who get teased for, you know, acting white, you know, and they see us as a place where they can do that performance and, you know, in our programs, and that's fine. And you have other young people who have been labeled as the bad kids who nobody wants, you know, they're used to being rejected by everybody. And they're welcome in our programs. There might be a young person who is, you know, almost every other word is a curse word out of their mouth, and they're welcome in the AllStars. And so with us, you know, we have the whole range of young people participate, and that's one of the things I'm proud of. That's why I'm proud of my 23-year association with the AllStars, because I've seen the young people span the entire range, and all the young people need growth.
I just wanted to say one more thing about, I had an issue with CPS because, and the media. The media was saying, oh, all of a sudden they started reporting how many CPS students were killed. I took issue with that because it was more of a story than it was humanitarian. So I called the newspaper and I asked them, and I said, why are you doing that when a young man who has dropped out of school, he's in a gang, and he gets killed, and one of the people at the staff told me, well, that's not our job. So what is your job? In our community, I mean, if you're talking about my community and 2 students from the high school, community high school dies, but the young man on the corner dies, and you pick and choose out of my community who you report on, then I have an issue with that. So we really got to start being aware of what's going on with our young people too. And although I agree with everybody on this panel, we have got to start realizing what's going on with our young people as their parents, as their teachers, as everything that they are. We've got to start realizing and talking to them. I'm with you, David. Kids off the block, we target gang members. And I don't even like saying that, because to them the gang is a family. It's a negative family, but it's a family. We target those young people, the dropout. We got to help our young people. Bottom line, I say this everywhere I go, we just got to help them. There is no ifs, and buts about it. There's no big secret to how to do it. It's just what we are, period. And that's human beings, loving our young people. We just got to do that.
This next question, I'm going to start with Mr. Seton. When you engaging a young person who is making the decision to take the life of another individual, knowing that they've lived a life where it's not like they're devoid of the experience of seeing the impact of death, of violence. It's not like they don't know what they're about to do. When you meet them at that moment, what is it that's driving them over that line, that's making them make the decision between, you know what, I'm going to let this go, and no, I'm going to go do this?
Well, it's important to be a credible messenger. Mostly everyone that works for Ceasefire come from the community. They just seen the bad side and the good side. They just seen the before and the after. You have to be able to intercept whispers. When you know someone is about to go out there and commit an act of violence, you got to be able to have people out there who can say, listen, you need to get over here, woo, about to do something. When you get over there, I done been in a situation where I've been standing between 2 people, both of them had guns. I'm like, listen at the facts. You got one story, you got one story. I'm gonna tell you the truth. You're gonna wind up in jail, you're gonna wind up in the graveyard. Is that what you want? Who gonna be a father to them kids? Who gonna be out there to stop the cycle that's going on in your house? If you're not able to intercept whispers, catch something on the front end, you'll be behind the 8 ball. You'll be trying to stop all his friends, all his buddies. So you have to be able out there to intercept whisper and tell them the truth. I mean, it's gonna be some situations. You can't be no miracle weapon. You can't save everyone. But if you get out there, when you first get the information, you can be able to save a life.
Ms. Latiker, you mentioned that a lot of the work you do, a lot of people are, the young people you work with are, well, I don't want to say gang members, it's a unincorporated youth leadership organization members. The media. Language is very important in the media. That's how they get you. Um, uh, you're able to, a lot of times young people won't say what's on their mind, but somehow you're able to glean from their body language, from their interaction, that there's a problem. How do you make the decision to intervene?
To me, if I even feel that there's something going on, there is no decision. You just intervene. It's just simple as that. There is no should I pause. It's none of that, because really, it could mean the difference between life and death. I too have stood between two guns in a gymnasium with 75 young boys. I have stood between. They brought the guns into the gym, and I stood it. And only to do was to grab the leader of the leader that both the gangs respected. I grabbed him. Lord, you know I do believe in God. I have to. I have to because there was no decision. That's why I'm saying that. To grab him and say, tell him to put the guns down. At that moment, I just didn't think, because it was 75 young men trying to play basketball behind me, and all I could think about was their lives. There's no decision. When you know something is about to drop, I agree. You have to just make the decision. And as a mom, I have 8 kids of my own. I have 4 boys and 4 girls. And to tell you the truth, you get these antennas like a Martian, and you know they don't have to say a word. You can look at them, and you can know, and they be, oh, ain't nothing, oh, all right. And as hard as they try to be, our young people, as hard as the boys try to be, we're 80% male. As hard as they try to be with telling me, Miss Diane, just, you know, you ain't got to do this, and you ain't, yeah, right. I'm right behind them. I'm on them. Because I know it can mean the difference between life and death. When they make those decisions to go out there in the street and tell, oh, I'm going to get this dude. Oh, he after me. And it's not like it used to be, where they say, I'm going to get him, and then they go home and sit down. It don't be like that. They really be on it. So I have to get behind them. And I have to say, there's no decision, Diane. You got to see what's up, so you can stop it, or call somebody that can stop it. I called ceasefire a couple of times. We got an issue over here. My bottom line, I say all the time, just got to do what we got to do. Do you not? Do we not?
Ms. Robinson, I just want to add a little bit to that. You know, I have a lot of close personal friends, some of which who are in the room here today, who are longtime professionals who've worked in Chicago public schools and beyond. And universally, what they communicated to me over the years is the hardest thing is that you can undo so much during that 5-6 hour day, and then they go back home to their parents, and it's all undone. Engaging the parents, is that part of the work that you have to do as an after-school program?
Yeah, I think part of it is that our parents haven't had the opportunity to be parents. I'll give you an example. I work in my church a lot, and I had a young mother who had 5 girls. And she told me, Miss Robinson, I left home at 16, so I have no idea of what parenting teenagers can be. So she was open, and I think somebody said earlier, you've got to be willing, parents have got to be willing to share their young people with other positive young people, because you do. I used to not like teenagers until my daughter became one. No, and it's an opposite story, because they are slow in terms of expressing themselves. And I share with my friends, they like to talk late at night when you're ready to go to bed. I mean, if you've got teenagers, and that's when they open up. I've had long conversations when we go on college tours. My passion is to get young people to see their opportunities, and you can see their eyes light up, but they want somebody to listen to them. Because I think as adults, we're such in a hurry to figure it out. And once my daughter said, be quiet and just listen. And so I think that's what we got to do, is that young people don't have people that will listen to them and have conversations with them, because we're so busy. And I think the exercise this morning was so on point. We're so moving so fast and trying to make things happen. But sometimes we've got to stop and listen and hear their pain, because they come to school. And my contention, if they come to school, it's our job to figure out what they need. They come across the threshold, whether they're the top A student, and I want to share our AllStars experience. We've had students that participated in the AllStars, and I had one young man, I didn't know he was in the AllStars program until I came down to a luncheon. And he told me, Miss Robinson, sometimes you don't need to know all my business. I was like, And he was very good. And if you saw him in school, you would have never picked him out to be able to be dedicated. They have to come downtown and navigate downtown 12 weeks on their own. They don't send a bus. You got to come on your own. But he did it, and he worked at an organization. He could tell, and we had a little problem at school one time, and he came, and he was able to kind of calm it down. So I think the opportunity is that we got to know that young people have wonderful, and school sometimes is not the best place. I have a nephew who had a horrible GPA, did not like high school because it was too confining to him. But he went to junior college because he could get his classes at 2 o'clock, and he could go on Saturday and Sunday. He's at DePaul. He's working in the admissions office. He's speaking at college fairs. And if you'd have told him when he graduated from high school, so you can't put young people in boxes. And I think that's, if you can only hear me and hear me clear, do not look at a young person and write them off. Because read the Steve Jobs book. Read a lot of the people who are doing phenomenal things. They were kind of crazy, and they did it their way. But they had a community which nurtured them, and that's what I think we got to do. Is we got to nurture them. And I think sometimes our parents don't know, but when we're loving towards the parents and stop beating up on the parents and saying what they're not doing and that they're bad parents, they're doing the best they can. And our job is to help them figure out how they can, and they allow us to work with their children. So I always tell young people, parents all the time, thank you for letting me work with your young person. And I'll stop them at report card pickup. Your young person is wonderful. And it's so hard for parents to take compliments for teenagers. They'll say, no, they're really not that good. I said, yes, they are. They're phenomenal human beings. And you've done a phenomenal job in doing it. And I think that's what we got to start doing.
David, in the media, one of the greatest money makers in broadcast television today, there are several of them out there, are programs that use performance, exhibition of talent of young people, but strip away the idea that it takes any kind of discipline or work to get to that level, that just 3 people pick you and you're a star. In terms of mitigating violence and conflict resolution, as well as teaching discipline of the craft, tell me a little bit about how AllStars Project plays a role in that.
Well, we call our flagship program is the AllStars Talent Show Network. Everywhere we go, where we started in New York City, when we started in Newark, New Jersey, in the San Francisco Bay Area, right here in Chicago, we always start out with the AllStars Talent Show Network. And I would say talent is probably the least important part of that title, but because every young person who auditions makes the show, regardless of their talent level, because we want that young person from the moment they walk in the door, when they get up there on that stage and audition, we want them to feel accepted as an all-star, and we want them to know what it's like to perform, and not only perform on stage, but what it's like to perform as a volunteer, what it's like to perform as a producer, what is it like if they want to try out to apply for the Development School for Youth and perform in a corporate setting, in a business setting, in that program, perform as an intern. So for us, what we look at is how we can introduce performance and play in the lives of young people, because young people don't get enough opportunities, in fact, to play. And one of the young people, I just want to mention a young person I met on the street. We do a lot of street outreach, and we go to transit stops, and we bring a multiracial team out there, and we're signing up young people. And I remember one young man who was standing there on the corner or right at the transit stop. He had a really mean look on his face, almost like, don't even think of talking to me. So naturally, I talked to him, and I gave him a flyer. Exactly. And so, I invited him to an audition, and he was still kind of reserved, I can be in this, I can audition. So he came to an audition. He got welcomed by our staff. He started performing in the talent shows. He started coming out to other activities. He asked me one day, I could apply to this Development School for Youth. He did that, performed, came to every workshop, dressed up, on time, graduated, did a paid internship, something that this young man who's standing on the corner, a person could say, and he said, he freely acknowledged he was a drug dealer. But that's not all he was. You know, that's one performance. You know, maybe that's one performance, that's one activity. He was a drug dealer, but everybody, as was mentioned by Kathy Saylor earlier, you both are who you are and who you're not as well. And who he became was a performer on stage. He became a student in our development school for youth. He became a paid intern, a youth host at luncheons. So he started performing this other activity. So in the All-Stars, and again, some of the young people here, you know, we invite them to be part of a variety of events. So they're both, you're always who you are, but you're also who you are not. And the young people get a chance to do these other performances, and they say, oh, I can do this. You know, I don't have to stand on a corner. I can come to a show. I can come to a workshop. I can be invited to somebody's home. And they grow in that environment.
Excellent. The purpose of this particular panel was to address the issue of violence in the community, but it's one of the things that the media does so poorly is that they boil down something so complex as to why young people are killing each other down to why is he holding a gun and what happened, and it's not that simple. And I think I was obtuse on purpose for that.
I've had long